What's up, dudes? It's League Universe Show Master Geeky and Nerdy, and welcome back to a new episode. But this time we are recapping episode 1, 2, 3 of Doom Patrol. Yes, we are recounting the episode which was entitled Puppet Patrol. Now, spoilers from here on out for anyone who has not seen the series yet, even though the series is, I believe, a couple years old by this point, but still, spoilers. So this episode was very Trainer inspired by. I mean, this has a lot to do more with Larry than anybody else in this series, mind you. So when this episode first begins, we have Jane going around and handing up posters if anybody's seen Niles Calder. But while she's doing so, there are people, a large mob of people behind her, yelling at her saying, "We don't need your kind around here, and we don't care about your sheep." So all of a sudden, she changes personas or personalities, probably to, I would assume, Hammerhead, and then stapled a thing to the guy's head. So not exactly charming. But meanwhile, everybody's trying to figure out what happened to the chief, why he went missing, and what exactly is happening. But before that happens, we actually get more intel from Cyborg. We learn that he was in the lab with his mother and that his grades were starting to get really bad while he was playing football. So his mother and father decided to take him off of the team for about 3 weeks to enhance his grades and make sure that his grades get up. Cyborg said that that's bullcrap, that they should not do something like that to him, and then he says that's bullshit. He throws all the medical science containers on his mother's tables, and they just exploded. So in an event, that means that Cyborg, our young hero, has basically with the cause and effect of his mother dying, as well as his new transformation, but he also learned more about it, and that the everything in there, including his own video file, was played by Mr. Nobody, Alan Tudyk. So there was no Alan Tudyk in this episode, but it's my heart. He was literally the best thing about the series. There was no narrator, and this one I get he used up all his narrator credits in the other video. But it is still a really good episode and a really good beginning to do that. And Cyborg also is becoming the leader of the Doom Patrol, which I thought was very nice. I mean, technically speaking, if I'm not mistaken, before Mento was a leader of the Doom Patrol, they originally had Robot Man or Cliff Steele as it. So now it's nobody. So they're going around looking through all of his stuff, and Cliff manages to find his daughter's phone number attached to his files. Um, but what he doesn't realize is the donkey was in Paraguay in 1948. Cyborg realizing that dun dun dun, Mr. Nobody, or Eric Modern, was actually a member of the Brotherhood of was a member of one of the Teen Titans thing. Like I think they called it like it's not the Brotherhood of Evil, it's something else. A team from the 1930s, and I'm sitting back on an old reference to an older series. Um, you know, I am pretty sure it was the Teen Titans thing. It was like the something hood of evil, whatever. It's not the Brotherhood of Evil. It's something different. So, but they acknowledged them, and then they had realized that they need to go to Paraguay and try to find out where it now Calder is in Paraguay. So everybody's trying to figure out how in the hell are we supposed to get to Paraguay? Well, obviously, Cyborg decides to ask his old daddy Silas for a jet, and he told him that Star Labs is not going to pay for his jet fees and whatever. So he just decides, nope. Instead, he told him, if you want to do things, you got to do them your own way. You cannot rely on your old man this time. So Cyborg decides, in a hilarious fashion, they're going to take the bus that was set up in episode one that Jane painted over and they went into town with. Um, so while they're driving the bus, everybody's giving everybody crap like, you're driving too slow, you're driving too fast, you're driving like a maniac. But then Larry decides while he's driving to try to talk to his other persona. Now, keep in mind that his negative self decided to dick him over since the last episode, where he wrote him a little note saying that we need to tone things down and we need to talk at some point. His result was putting him on top of the ceiling in Niles Calder's room. Fancy. Um, so he ends up trying to talk to him, but instead of talking to him calmly, like an actual respected person, he starts calling him names. He starts calling him a prick. He starts calling him a bastard. He starts calling him a fucking no good piece of crap that lives inside of his body. So the negative spirit takes that negative energy and just bursts out from his body, attacks the bus, and makes it just explode. So there's a lot of different references to the Justice League in this, what I think is very a nice nod. Because they make Batman jokes, they make Aquaman jokes, and I'm like, so apparently they're aware that he just joined the Justice League and that he was in the 2018 movie Justice League, but in this version he was not. And then Cliff made a nice little Easter egg thing, which I think was true. Um, he goes, good luck trying to join the Justice League 2020 roster, and I'm like, I'm pretty certain that Cyborg did join the Justice League 2020 roster. If I remember correctly, in Justice League, he was on the Justice League team in 2020, so nice little Easter egg. So in this, while they're trying to fight how to get to Paraguay, Jane's personality, known as Flit, does the job and teleports them um, to Paraguay, where they end up meeting a really weird man by the name of Steven. So they end up talking to Steven and basically trying to get some information from him. And he said that he's waiting on the Morden bus, which they do realize as Eric Morden, aka Mr. Nobody. Um, so the bus comes, that picks him up, and it takes him to the place of Führer von Future, who basically, if you don't read Grant Morrison stuff, is Puppet Master. I don't know anything about Puppet Master, but all that I know is that he can use, I think, like, psychokinesis and telekinesis, and he basically can possess people. But the thing is, he has to have his mind set on these people because there is a scene later on where Cliff was talking to one of his secretaries, and the secretary is sitting there not moving. So it seems like, he had to be in the right, form to take control of a lot of people. So originally, it is a puppet show that does explain how he came to be, how he joined the Nazis for their experimentations and other stuff. But during this, they explain that it took him 3 hours just to get to the information that they need. So it is a little bit of a comedic thing there. Um, Nobody really does like basically puppet plays, I don't believe anymore. So they get interviewed by basically these women, and all around the room is Nazi propaganda, like old slogans, flags, posters. I'm kind of sitting there going, this must have been a little uncomfortable for some of the actors and whatnot to be sitting in a room like that, but nonetheless, still great scene and still great stuff. As a dude who likes World War II stuff, it was pretty cool for me to see all the old posters and propaganda stuff that they had. Um, so the people that they talked to, the secretaries of his or him, since he does take control of them, um, is that what do they want done to them in exchange, for something else, for like money or whatever. So Larry decides that he wants to go back to normal, Cliff decides to try to go back to being human, and Jane tries to trick them into letting her see basically Mr. The Puppet Master here. So she does end up doing so, and Puppet Master in this is really freaky looking. I gotta give the actor credit for that. He's basically in a giant iron lawn being cranked by a person over on the side continuously just to make sure that he breathes. He can't use his hands, his legs. He's just stapled basically into this giant old fashioned iron lawn. And then it becomes like a big murder spree between Jane and Robot Man. You get to see Robot Man lose control for the first time. Like, he doesn't become himself, he becomes somebody completely different. He starts killing people, and yes, I do mean that's really like brutally killing people. He rips somebody apart, he beats somebody with the lower half of their body, he slams their head into the wall so hard that their head gets caved in. I mean, he went on a murder spree. This is, not the quick deal that everybody else realizes or notices. But for Jane, her other personalities save her. More notably, she uses Flit and she uses Silverton in this. And Silverton had the best kill in this series when uh, the puppet master was talking to her. And he is really creepy and really good at talking, the actor that portrayed Puppet Master. Because he goes, "You are nobody. You're just a little girl hiding behind other personalities, unlike me, who's in full control of his entire life." And I love what she said. She goes, "Off with us, motherfucker," and sends the words flying right into him. But even the greatest of villains don't die easily, because he just sits there and he's like, "You have killed me in a pathetic way. I will be back." Yeah. I was expecting him to do like a full like German speech with like the subtitles underneath of what he says, but regrettably enough. So let's talk about the main character behind this. But before that, Cyborg and Rita have a really good bonding moment together, where they have to acknowledge each other for how different that they are and how affected that they are of Mr. Nobody in the last episode, taking control of them and making them seem less human than they already know that they are. Rita said that she can't keep her body together as much as she used to, so she's stress eating, which tendency she has to do to keep her body in control. And Cyborg is just basically stressed out because kind of a little bit of PTSD is hitting him because he realizes, kind of like what happened with his mother, that technically speaking, he was the fault of that. And that he's trying to deal with his father at the same time, who they're not on good terms with exactly. So he's trying to manage, to keeping care of his father and also trying to realize the burden of what he did with his mom, which is very dark stuff and very good stuff to deal with. But Larry is or Negative Man, is the entire purpose of this entirely. Um, from start to finish, Larry is the star of the program in this. You go back to when he was dating his partner in the Air Force or whatever, known as John. John and him basically get into a fight originally, and even Larry goes to him and makes a good point that I have something to lose when you don't, and I'm like, well, he might. And then he just tells Larry straight up, he says, "Fuck you," and just leaves, and Larry, goes back to him and says, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry." So technically speaking, Larry is keeping his bisexual or gay other self hidden behind closed doors, but his wife is no fool. His wife, I forget his wife's name, Sophia, I think it is. Uh, she ends up realizing that he isn't, as she put, drinking with the guys, but she knows differently that he's cheating on her with men. And she is just not going to take it. She is basically sick of it, and she tells him that either you shape up, realize what's important to you, or I'm just gonna walk out. So he kind of gets a little breakdown from that, and especially when he's in the machine that made Mr. Nobody who he is, which we actually get more of the origin explained from Mr. Nobody, which was cool. He talked to his other self face to face, the negative form. And in negative form acts evil, but I don't think that his negative form is evil. It's just trying to keep him safe. Like, it's trying to tell him something, but his negative form can't talk. All it can do is echo what Larry said, or it just shrieks. So this means that his negative form had no, vocal cords of its own. But when Larry tried to leave that space to basically go back to being normal, because we see him unbandaged with his human face, he said, "Let me out of here. Why are you keeping me in here? Why in the fuck are you keeping me in here?" And it can't, tell him or answer him. But then he sees John in the empty space, and before he goes to touch him, basically to caress his face, knowing that everything's alright, that's when Jane and Cliff rescue him out of there. But we get even more info that while he was in the hospital, his negative form killed several doctors and nurses, and he had to be kept in a little quarantine cell, essentially because they thought that he was radioactive, so they didn't want him to get with people. He tried to talk with his wife, but his wife tells him, "I'm leaving you. I told our sons that Daddy's never coming home, and he doesn't plan to." And I'm like, not exactly the right thing that you should be telling your sons, but, alright. So technically to, his wife and everything, that they are, daddy dead, essentially, which is very depressing and whatnot. And, even when John and the other Air Force members come in and try to talk to him, he just told them to leave, that, he didn't really want to talk to them. And then when he learns, because originally John was supposed to go from one Air Force to another, and that he wouldn't basically be there no more because they're not using him as well as he assumes. They just do whatever that they want, and then they just terminate him from the program, so to speak. And he's like, "I can't do this no more because they're just using me instead of letting me do what I need to be done." But then when he's in the hospital, he told Larry that he's gonna stay because Larry needed him at that point in time. And Larry told him, "Go. I do not need you here. Essentially, just go." So I'm guessing that basically that was the last time that Larry ever talked to John, which again was a pretty much emotional moment, especially for Larry Trainer, that we get to know and get to understand and realize. And it was pretty good to actually understand what originally happened and what was the result of that. It was very, very good to see. So they think that the chief had become a puppet because they took the puppet of the chief on Puppet Master, which I don't think that actually happened. They do explain that Mr. Nobody can use other people in different dimensions to power himself, but I don't think Chief is a puppet. Though it is going to be kind of funny to see them use a puppet as the Chief. So they almost go into Jane's backstory about who is actually in control of Jane's body, because as Puppet Master noticed, Jane's not the one in control. Somebody else is. And it's like, ooh, maybe we'll get some backstory on Jane at some point, you know. But while they're all on the jet, Cliff just takes the phone number for his daughter and he just throws it away because it's all bloody. He's covered in blood. Basically, he became somebody that he isn't. So probably in episode 4, he's going to be pretty traumatized because of this, and he's not going to know what to do with himself. Now for the strangest thing that happened at the end of this episode, which means that he's probably going to be a main player at some point. Steven, after Jane destroys the entire work facility, steps out of a machine destroyed by Jane. But when he steps out, he's part animal, part mineral, and part vegetable. I have to explain. Um, this is a character from the 1960s, from when the first Doom Patrol was premiered. I think in like Strange Adventures or something. Um, this is the natural villain of the Doom Patrol, who is still a villain of the Doom Patrol, called Animal Vegetable Animal Man. Yes, I'm not making that up. You can look that up. That is real. It is Animal Vegetable Mineral Man. He can turn himself into any animal he pleases, any vegetable he pleases, and any mineral he pleases. And more than likely, he is known for being two-headed. He has the Steven head on one side and like a Tyrannosaurus head on the other side. So, yeah, he's going to be basically a main player in this. So the next episode coming up is one called Cult Patrol. This is going to be very interesting. I'm sorry, it's up here. The synopsis of this episode, all that I know, is the Doom Patrol tried to avert the apocalypse. So that's going to be very interesting. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know if you guys are enjoying the Doom Patrol reviews yourself. I enjoy doing them, so as such, I am going to keep doing them. So thank you guys so much for watching. This is Raging Universe signing out, saying remember, you may meet a puppet master. You may go to watch a puppet show, but be careful. The puppet master might be behind the curtains. And no, it is not a tiny man with a maniacal voice. It is a literally German dude who is frightening. And I'll see you next time.